Yuri washed the dishes after dinner, but was unable to concentrate on the task at hand. She spaced out and dropped a plate. The clang sound prompted Junhee to shout from her bedroom asking what's the matter. Yuri apologized for spacing out. Junhee stated it was already the second time. What was bothering Yuri so much? Yuri had a flashback to earlier when she was eating her lunch. After hearing the good rumors about Manwha, what he had done, and looking at the necklace gift he bought her, she decided to thank him for the gift by asking him for dinner. She messaged him Manwha, but he told her he had plans already, to which she was disappointed, but decided not to fret over it. Back in her shift, she overheard Jianwoo gossiping that the CEO and department head Han were going to have a date later. Jianwoo continued to gossip about the CEO and Ms. Han are not on good terms, but Han Jiangwoo Company makes up most of the revenue in the fashion hall. It will be the CEO's loss if he does not have a good relationship with Ms. Han. The entire evening, Yuri had been bothered by the dinner between Manwha and department head Ms. Han. She tried to convince herself with what Manwha told her previously, that he only ever meets if it's for business. But she just couldn't stop thinking about it. Back at the current time, Yuri tried cleaning up the broken plate but Junhee kicked her out. At this rate, Yuri might break all her dishes. She made Yuri go watch the TV instead. Yuri went to the couch and tried to relax, clearing her thoughts. A ding came through her phone. She checked the message and it was from Manwha. He was already in front of her apartment and would like her to go out. Yuri didn't waste any time. She got up, grabbed a jacket and went out the door, leaving Junhee speechless. Outside, she noticed Manwha's parked car in the parking lot. Yuri quickly got in next to Manwha and asked what brought him there. He told her he wanted to see her, which instantly tugged her heart as she blushed coolly. Manwha took out a paper bag with Yuri's favorite snack, which he bought on the way. She instantly beamed at the sight. Manwha asked if something like this makes her that happy. She explained that she used to eat it often with her mother. It was her mother's favorite too. She took the bag from him and thanked him as she got fidgety wanting to ask about the evening dinner. Instead she asked if he drank any alcohol. He denied having drank alcohol because he had the dinner with department head Han. Yuri replied that she knew. He asked how she knew. She stated that the word travels much faster than he imagined throughout the department store, everything from external to internal matters. Manwha asked if she was curious as to why they met. She stated that it might be business talk. Manwha explained that he took a stand about any talk of marriage. He made it crystal clear to Ms. Han, but her father is really temperamental, so it will take some time to settle this thing completely. Yuri asked if he was okay with it. He asked her to clarify what she meant. She explained that marriage is another important aspect of business for him. Department head Han is a great business partner for him, so. Manwha stated that he learned after his divorce with her, marriage can never be a business deal. Never again will he do business with his life. And he leaned in closer to give her a kiss. At a nightclub, loud music boomed throughout the floor while most people were on the dance floor dancing away. Hae-soo Han arrived to meet up with her friends. They were wondering why she came since she was busy working these days. Hae-soo Han told her friends she's been so bogged down lately and wanted to let loose. Her friend then asked, and they heard she was seeing Manwha Choi from Sungwon Group. Is she getting married this year? Hae-soo Han played it cool and asked where they heard it from. Her friend said the word was widespread everywhere. And wasn't it her motive for joining the Sungwon department store? Hae-soo Han took a shot of alcohol thinking of her intention then. Her father recommended her to enter Sungwon and she thought it was a temporary process that would lead to marriage with Manwha Choi and to promotion from the department head to the president of the department store. Who knew she had to work late every night and tear her hair out over the sales performances? She never had to please any man before Manwha. Hae-soo scowled at the thought of Manwha rejecting her. What's the big deal about a marriage of convenience? After downing her alcohol shot, Haisu asked her friends if they are just going to sit around and drink or will they go to the dance floor. One of the friends said she looked earlier and there were some hot guys down on the dance floor. The three walked up to the rail and looked down to observe the dance floor. Haisu was feeling confident, she was not going to let the night end like this. The friends saw a man they knew of, as Yuyun Lee, from Yusung Corporation. The friends started blurting out gossip news about him as they watched Yuyun threatening another man on the dance floor while the security were trying to stop him. One of the friends stated that his sister is Yuri Lee, who was once married to Muon Choi. The Yusung Corp started going down ever since they lost the in-law relationship with Sungwon Group. Next day at Glow Spa, Duyun came to Yuri. He asked to get the cardigan he bought last time in every color. His stepfather wears that one all the time and it started to wear out. He wanted his father to have a different color to wear each day of the week. Yuri thought of the gift she got for her father, who never wore it once. How heartbroken she was, as like she, herself, was also meant to be hidden away. Yuri told Duyun Appa to wait while she went to the cardigan section to sort the cardigans for him. Jianwen chatted with Duyun while Yuri was busy. She overheard Duyun telling Jianwen that the project he is working on right now kept him pretty busy, thus, the weight loss. The big-mouthed Jianwen brought Yuri into the conversation how devoted Doyen must be to Yuri, buying her the necklace from Karxier. Necklace? Duyun was confused as he turned to look at Yuri, to glance at the necklace. He told Jianwen that it's a shame, the necklace wasn't from him. This left Jianwen speechless. He started to question who bought the necklace then? Duyun played dumb and asked the same question at Jianwen. Yuri felt nervous and directed the topic to the cardigans by asking Jianwen to go to the storage room and take out the brown color cardigan. After Jianwen left, Duyun asked if the necklace was from Muon. She told him yes. He asked if she started seeing Muon. She answered yes, with a somewhat flustered expression. He praised her and stated that her heart will be devastated if she ended it without even trying. He assured her that he is okay. Before Duyun could finish, black aura swept over them. Both Yuri and Duyun directed their attention to the entrance and Muon came in gloomily. Duyun told Muon that they were in the store. Muon stated he knew about it. Muon asked Duyun Kong to have a talk with him. Flashback to 3 hours ago, Muon had a lunch meeting with President Yu. President Yu presented some documents to Muon regarding Yusung Corp, that Yuyun Lee was caught in a trap. It's not a regular hedge fund, but professional corporate raiders are behind it. If Yuyun's father was the chairman, he would never do something like putting out the company's stocks and land property as collateral. It's way too risky. Muon noticed LJ Partners? President Yu elaborated that LJ Partners is the company that is holding the neck of Yusung Corporation. Muon knew that it involves professional corporate raiders, and it's using SEON Group's capital rather than foreign capital. Muon concluded that the business failure that happened earlier must have been part of LJ Partners' plan too. According to what he heard, SEOIN Holdings is behind LJ Partners. President Yu was surprised that Muon knew that as well. Muon asked if SEOIN Holdings was going after Yusung Corporation. President Yu said they're after Jinsung Construction, a company run by gangsters that Yusung Company had brought in as the constructor for the Star Road. Muon questioned if Jinsung Construction is a small fry to go after for a company the size of SEOIN Holdings. President Yu explained that SEONIN was after Jinsung Hotel. Since SEOIN Hotel was hankering for Jinsung Hotel, Jinsung kept raising the price. SEOIN wouldn't put up with such behavior for long. Plus, it was rumored that a decent guy volunteered to be the raider to catch Yusung Company. He looked like a young guy, but had a wealth of information. A diamond on a dunghill is still a diamond. They're dealing with Yusung Company. And they cut all the sources of outside funding. While President Yu explained the situation, Muon wondered if Do-yoon could have intentionally approached Yuri to use her as a means to destroy Yusung Company. But Yuri isn't really related to Yusung in the first place. President Yu interrupted Muon's thoughts by asking if Muon asked him to look into Yusung Company's situation because of Muon's ex-wife. Muon was caught in plain sight. He asked, how did President Yu know? President Yu laughed that it was pretty obvious. Muon could only smile contently like a man deeply in love. In the restaurant, Muon and Doyeon sat across from each other while dark sparks clashed between them. Suddenly their sparks were cut off by Muon's phone buzzing. Yuri called asking where on earth were them two? Muon stated, they just went out for a drink. Yuri reprimanded, how could he say that? And even worse, just them two. And Do-yoon Oppa really just went to the store to buy clothes. She hoped there was no misunderstanding. Muon calmly denied. They just need to talk over something. Yuri asked, about what? Muon assured that he will talk to her later. Do-yoon Kong was waiting for him. Yuri asked again if everything was fine? And they shouldn't drink too much. Yuri told him she will wait for him. Muon assured her again before hanging up, smiling at his phone, which agitated Do-yoon. Muon suggested they take a shot first, which they both each downed a shot. After the shot, Muon asked who was Do-yoon Kong? Confused, he asked what Muon meant. Muon elaborated he heard various stories about LJ Partners Do-yoon worked for, that it's not just an investment company, but an infamous corporate raider, that it's laundering SEONIN Group's slush fund, and he is targeting Yusung Corporation. Do-yoon's expression remains unchanged. He asked, so what? Muon asked if he is after Yuri for that purpose? Pretending to be a good friend of her brother's in order to use an innocent woman? Do-yoon found that phrase so comical. He could only laugh while asking what does Yuri has to do with that family? If he ruins that family, she'll welcome it more than anyone. Do-yoon stated, Muon really does not know anything about Yuri. Angered by the statement, Muon asked what Do-yoon meant. Do-yoon stood up and suggested they go elsewhere. These drinks aren't that good. This kind of place is ideal for business, not for drinks. Muon wanted to say no to Do-yoon. Do-yoon told him to continue being clueless about Yuri, which was actually not a bad thing. Muon clenched his fists, irritated at the situation. He could only stand up and follow Do-yoon. They drove to a different area and eventually came to a place where the car couldn't fit any longer. So Do-yoon and Muon ended up walking. As they walk, Do-yoon told Muon he usually doesn't bring his car when he visits the place. Muon asked if Do-yoon wanted to elevate his tastes. He must be making good money, since he manages the SEOIN Group assets. Do-yoon frowned at Muon and stated that he is different from Muon who was born with a silver spoon, and he felt much more comfortable in a place like this. They were greeted by an elderly woman as they entered. The elder woman seemed to know Do-yoon well as she greeted him as Prosecutor Kong. Do-yoon told her that he quit being a prosecutor a while ago. Why is she still calling him that? The elder woman reasoned that once a prosecutor, is always a prosecutor. And where have Do-yoon been hiding lately? Do-yoon replied that he had been too busy working. She told him he could stop by for a quick bowl of rice. Muon observed how close Do-yoon and the elder woman were while not knowing what the situation was. The elder woman asked if the handsome man was Do-yoon's friend. Isn't it the first time Do-yoon ever brought a friend? Do-yoon rejected Muon as a friend. The elderly woman was confused. She asked why he brought someone who was not even a friend to her shabby place. She could see the man was more well off than Do-yoon. Do-yoon told her that he is Yuri's husband. Do-yoon introduced Muon to the elderly woman. Her name was Mrs. Kong-won, who used to cook in Songbukdong in earlier days. Mrs. Kong-won was awestruck at the handsome Muon. She started blabbering how good-looking Muon was that it made her little shop seem so much brighter now. It's only natural for Prosecutor Kong to take a back seat to him. Do-yoon forced a smile and muttered, Auntie, we're right here, can you please stop? Mrs. Kong-won invited them to a table as she continued to babble on how she firmly believed Yuri's match was Prosecutor Kong. Duyun didn't want to stay and listen, so he excused himself for a cigarette break and Mrs. Kongwon can continue the story while he's gone. Mrs. Kongwon nagged at Duyun how many times she told him to quit smoking. As soon as Doyen was out of sight, she turned to Muon and asked what he does for a living. Muon told her he ran a business. Mrs. Kongwon heard it was an arranged marriage between families. His fancy look tells her that he was not from an ordinary family. She asked when they got married. Muon told her 5 years ago. To him, it wasn't a lie, except that they got divorced. Mrs. Kongwon asked if they had any children. Muon told her they don't have children. Mrs. Kongwon thought it was a little late. Well, she saw that young people nowadays have children much later. She proceeded to ask how Yuri is doing. Muon told Mrs. Kongwon that Yuri is doing well. A big relief showed on her face, she was glad to hear that. She elaborated that when she was leaving Songbukdong, Yuri grabbed her arm and cried, begging her not to leave. She had been wondering how Yuri was doing since she knew how Yuri was abused in Songbukdong. It caught Muon off guard. He asked her to clarify, but a customer called for an order. Mrs. Kongwon had to step away momentarily to prepare the order. Muon clenched his fist, thinking she was abused. He kind of sensed that life wasn't comfortable for her in Songbukdong, because life in Pyeongchangdong was not comfortable for him either. Still, abuse is overboard. Mrs. Kongwon came back with one of Yuri's favorite side dishes. She asked if Muon knew that Yuri was not the daughter of Songbukdong's madam. Muon answered he knew. Mrs. Kongwon guessed Yuri didn't tell Muon anything about the abuse, which she was not surprised as Yuri didn't even let her biological father know about it. She told Muon whatever she said today, take it as an old person's grumbling. The day Yuri first came to Songbukdong was when Yuri was 12. It was more or less this time of the year. Her mother dressed her up for sending her away, and Yuyun threw cold water from the garden on her. The Songbukdong madam just watched Yuri after making her stand outside for an hour in the cold weather. It really broke Mrs. Kongwon's heart to see the little Yuri shedding tears, too scared to say anything. Muren took a shot of alcohol as he needed it to listen to this kind of story. Mrs. Kongwon then told Muon that was just the start. Since Yuri went to that house, the Songbukdong madam never missed a chance to scold Yuri. If Yuri answered when spoken to, the madam scolded her for answering. If she didn't answer, she got scolded for not answering. Muon asked if Chairman Lee knew about it. As the father, what did he do when his daughter was being treated like that? Mrs. Kongwon stated he was always way too busy. He'd go home twice a week, or when he's lucky, 3 times a week at most. Yuri knew she wasn't supposed to hold on to him or say anything. Yuyun was more extreme. They kept expensive carps inside and Yuri loved them so much she would watch them day and night in that huge house. The pond was the only place she could get attached to. Then one day after school, Mrs. Kongwon ran outside when Yuri screamed crazily, only to find all the carps floating upside down. Yuyun hated to see Yuri caring for them, so he poisoned the pond. It was Duyun who took out those carps and buried them in the garden. Since that day, Yuri would gag at the sight of fish on the dining table. From then on, Yuri started to not show any emotions. She became like a living doll. Yuri not showing any emotions was probably the deciding factor for her marrying him, but it was actually her shield of self-protection. Muon thought to himself. Mrs. Kongwon hoped this would help Muon. She figured there must be some reason for Prosecutor Kong to bring Yuri's husband to her, so she just let loose a bit. More customers came in and Mrs. Kongwon had to go assist them. Muon pondered on what Mrs. Kongwon said she really meant from what she said earlier, that she wished Prosecutor Kong was Yuri's match. Duyun really cherished Yuri. Muon went outside while the word cherished lingered in his mind. He saw Duyun standing by the light pole smoking. Duyun asked if it was of any help to Muon. Muon was surprised to see Doyen have been waiting this whole time. Duyun told Muon that he is good at waiting, so Muon might want to keep that in mind. Muon asked what he meant. Duyun said he won't miss the chance if Muon ever let go of Yuri's hand again. Muon wasn't in the mode to joke because he knew Duyun wouldn't miss the chance again. He asked if Duyun's father knew what he was up to. Muon heard that his father devoted himself to Yusung Corporation. Duyun guessed his father probably knew. Probably knew. Muon questioned. Duyun said his father is not alive anymore. There was an accident in the Star Road construction case. The fight between the gangs hired by Jinsung Construction and the market merchants was fierce. The shopping arcade alliance shut down the market and started the sit-in strike, when a huge fire broke out, causing a lot of casualties due to too many old temporary buildings. The staff in charge of ordering the arson committed suicide the day before he was summoned to the prosecution, and the case fizzled out. Muon was informed of that incident, since that was the reason for his separation from Yusung Company. But what does that have to do with Duyun? Duyun answered, "That man was my father." The manager was Jaiwan Kong. He was the person in charge and the one who took his own life. To be more exact, the person who was found dead after being framed as the person in charge was my father, that manager Kong. The drive back home. The driver noticed that Muon was in a bad mood. He thought it was the rain, so he reported that the rain wasn't in the weather forecast, so it might just be a small shower. Muon kept thinking of what Duyun told him, and how Duyun finally found out after his father's death that the jerk who ordered to set the fire was Yuyun Lee. Muon arrived at the hotel and saw Yuri waiting. Muon apologized for forgetting to call her. Yuri asked if something happened. He doesn't look okay. Muon told her nothing happened and suggested they go inside to talk since there are a lot of people in the lobby. Yuri agreed. They took the elevator to the floor. As they headed to the room, Yuri asked Muon if he'll keep his promise. What? Then it clicked what she meant by that. He assured her that he will keep that promise. Honestly, he has no room in his mind to think about that today. Still, he thought how naive of her to put down her guard like that with just one sentence. Once inside the room, he asked if she wanted a drink. Yuri declined. She asked what he and Duyun talked about. Muon told her it's about business. About the work his company is doing. In his mind he wanted to say, LJ Partners is not an investment company, but a bad mergers and acquisition company, and her parents are trapped by it. He should tell her that Duyun Kong is not actually a good man, but, seeing her innocent, clueless expression, he doesn't know where he should start or how to say it. In the end, he could only hug her tightly. Quietly. Yuri asked what was wrong. But Muon told her for just a moment. He wanted to embrace her for a moment. He couldn't fathom. She's so small. How did she put up with all that? All alone, even while she was living with him after the marriage. Finally, Muon told Yuri. It's so good. That you came to me. She asked what's the big deal about coming there. Then her phone buzzed and she had to excuse herself. He asked who it was. Yuri told him it was her direct supervisor, Julia. As soon as she picked up the call, Julia shouted that she won. She won the child custody trial. Yuri congratulated Julia on being able to continue to live with her daughter. While Yuri and Julia update each other, Muon took off his suit jacket and helped himself to a glass of water. After Yuri hung up, Muon asked what's going on. Yuri updated Muon of Julia's child custody case, and the lawyer recommended Julia to stick to her child until the lawsuit ends. It's fortunate that the lawsuit ended much sooner than they expected. Muon remembers that he saw Yuri holding a girl in the photo she posted in her social media. Was that by chance Julia's child? Yuri questioned how he knew about her social media accounts. Has he been snooping around her social media accounts? Muon stated he accidentally saw it when she left her cell phone in his room the other day. She questioned, accidentally? She uploaded that photo quite a long time ago. Unable to evade her questioning, Muon confessed. He was curious about how she had been living. So it just happened. Yuri told him that it doesn't make her feel good if he was snooping around her life without her consent. She hoped he wouldn't do it anymore. Muon then remembered what Duyun told him. Not to mention anything he heard today unless Yuri is willing to tell him about it. He wasn't fully convinced, but now he is. He will wait until Yuri tells him about her life in Songbukdong herself. Muon changed the subject. He asked if there was a place she wanted to go since the department store will have its regular holiday in 2 days. Yuri said if Gangneung is okay. It was where she used to live when she was young. Jumunjin Gangneung. Muon asked if that was before she went to Songbukdong. She nodded yes, it sometimes crosses her mind. The sound of the sea. The smell, it would be nice to go together. Gazing at her happy expression, he gently caressed her face and told her, let's go together. Doyoon took a shower as he reminisced of the past. It was raining hard that day as well, just like today. In his work office, he met with a client who said Doyoon was really frustrated to work with rookie prosecutor. The client told him that he has no intention of testifying against director Yoo Hoon Lee and saying he's the person who ordered the man to start the fire. If he were to take Doyoon's side and testify that the one who called him back then wasn't Doyoon's father, would it even make a difference? Doyoon asked him to clarify. The client asked Doyoon to think about it. Jinsung Corporation's gone belly up. And he heard that the chairman of Yusung Corp plans on taking all the responsibility for the business-related involuntary manslaughter charges. Does he think catching the culprit now is going to bring his dead father back, or something like that? He's trying to turn over a case that the police, defense counsel, and the main prosecutor are all in cahoots on? Does Doyoon have all the connections to do that? Doyoon stated that if the man cannot cooperate, then he can use the media. The man laughed and asked if Doyoon is prepared to lose his job. He is sure Doyoon's father would have loved that, after working his ass off for his entire life, to make Doyoon a prosecutor. Even if Doyoon did all that, managed to catch the real culprit, how long does Doyoon think the culprit will be locked away for? 5 years? 3 years? If he's lucky, he'll just get off with probation. The man told Doyoon he is not interested in Doyoon's plan of taking revenge. He's got family to take care of. Doyoon stood outside the entrance, as it rained hard and thought, the man was right. There's nothing he can change. Then, Doyoon remembered that day, his father held his hand and told him, there is an invisible scale in this world. That's the reason good and bad things take turns in our lives. Doyoon thought what a lie that was. If that was true, this shouldn't be allowed to happen. This shouldn't be what he gets in return for his lifelong struggles. Doyoon made a phone call to meet up. In a private room, the white-haired man asked how did Doyoon say that would blow up this matter no matter what. Doyoon handed the man a USB stick and said things had changed. The white-haired man asked what changed his mind. Doyoon stated he needed connections. Someone who can support him so that he can do what he wants. He is sure the white-haired man can make that possible. The white-haired man grinned and said that's the best thing Doyoon said so far. Doyoon heard from rumors that this man is like Mephistopheles, said to send the humans that make deals with him down to the pits of hell, after having them ripped to shreds at the hands of demons. He guessed he'll have to find out whether he'll fall into those pits. After the shower, Doyoon was drying himself when a phone call came in asking how's the hunt coming along. Doyoon said it was going well. He had cut off their limbs so that they could not move properly. He'll send out a ransom in the first state of the plan. What happened to the situation with Sungwon Group that they discussed earlier? Doyoon told him he does not need to worry as he thought, Muon Choi is the last person who would ever give in to Yoo Lee. The man on the other end felt relief, frankly speaking, he wanted to avoid any conflict with the Sungwon Group. The man reported as Doyoon instructed, he checked out Muon Choi and his wife. Yuri Lee. He looked into reasons for their divorce, but Muon came out just too clean. No women, gambling, drugs, nothing at all. He doesn't doubt it. So then he investigated the wife, and there wasn't much on her either. However, her mother passed away on the same day as her own wedding. It was liver cancer. She had relapsed after recovering, causing her to battle with it for quite some time. But she did have a daughter, so the man is sure that she could have lived if the mother had gotten a liver transplant. The man is sure there must be a reason for it. The man thought the family was really messed up. He also found out another interesting thing about Yusung Corporation. That Yuyun Lee isn't Chairman Lee's real son. Inside the car, Muon told Yurei to sleep a bit if she is tired as she closed shop pretty late last night. Yurei stated wasn't he in a meeting until late last night as well? Muon said those are normal working hours for him. Yurei told him she's alright. After all, she cannot just sleep when someone's driving next to her. But, then she started dozing off. Muon called her and asked if she slept okay. She blushed in embarrassment. She actually fell asleep. Muon told her to look outside, and they arrived. Yurei looked through the glass window and felt ecstatic. She ran outside to the lighthouse dock. Muon followed her and asked if she used to live nearby. Yurei asked if he saw the market on the way. There's a boutique shop by the seafood section there, where they make and tailor clothes. Her mother worked there. Muon stated that her mother must be quite skillful. Is that why she chose Parsons? Yurei told him not exactly. Her father wanted her to study abroad, and Parsons was all the rage among mothers with daughters back then. Muon put his jacket on Yuri and told her he understood now why all the women he got set up with went to school at Parsons. Yurei chuckled as she thanked him for the jacket. Muon asked, what was her mother like? Does she take after her mother? Yurei said they do look very similar, especially their eyes. Muon said her mother must have been beautiful. Yurei asked if he's calling her pretty. Muon did not hesitate to be blunt. He told her of course she is pretty. Why would she ask that? Yuri felt shy hearing the truth from him. She asked if he took after his father. He said he's been told so. Yurei said she is sure his mother was beautiful as well. Has he ever seen pictures of her? Muon said to be honest, his mother wasn't really beautiful, by any objective standards. His 3 stepmothers whom his father later married were much more beautiful. But his mother looked very welcoming and warm. He doesn't know what his mother was like, so he was a little jealous that she has memories of her mother to look back on. Yurei was reminded that Muon doesn't have a single memory of his mother. She caressed his face and assured Muon that his mother must be a very warm and kind person. Muon asked how she knew that. Yurei reasoned that his father wasn't able to forget about her for a very long time. Muon replied that's why he got into fights every day. It caught Yurei off guard. She doesn't know what that has to do with what they're talking about. Muon said looking back, he thought that was how he tried to express his feelings. He was trying to get his father, who was avoiding him, to pay attention to him. Yuri knew from seeing it herself throughout her marriage time with him. They were impossible to mix, like water and oil. Muon could see that it must have been difficult for his father to look at him, who suddenly appeared in exchange for the life of the woman he loved. But he also lost his mother as soon as he was born too. So it was hard for him too. As his father, he should have taken care of his son instead of avoiding his son. Yuri said she thinks they both have been lonely in similar ways. Muon said to be honest, he didn't even know that this void within him was loneliness. He didn't even know how to love someone else. It was only when she came to him and after she had left him, that it started becoming clear to him. She gave him his everything, without her, he is nothing. He leaned in to give her a kiss. Father and son arrived home happily from a day of play. The young boy suggested they go camping next time. The mother laid there on the couch drunk, smirking and asked, did they have fun without her? The father asked Yuyun to go upstairs. Yuyun went upstairs, but forgot his collection box. So he went back downstairs, to hear his mom scolding his father. That his father is disgusting. How can he face the kid with a straight face, when it's not even his own? This news shook Yuyun. His father who left the woman he loved for his mother, and his mother, who had an affair with some lowly escort, were both the same to him. In the police station, Yuyun shouted at his father to stay away from him. What the hell does he care for him? The father could only say because Yuyun is his son. Yuyun smirked and said they don't share a drop of blood. The father insisted that he is still his son. The son shouted that he has a daughter, who's actually related to him. Yuyun was drinking while he scolded Yuri for his current state. It was all because she decided to get a divorce and crawl out from Sungwon Group. If she hadn't done that, he wouldn't have touched those high-risk bets. Yuyun also scolded Duyun Kong, that stubborn bastard, until a woman approached him. Yuyun thought they wouldn't let anyone who looks over 30 into this private room? Hysun Han's face twitched. She introduced herself as Han Hyesu, from Han Jiangwool. He asked what brought her there. She seated herself as Yuyun wouldn't invite her to sit. She stated he's a bit rude to his prospective savior. He asked what she meant by that. She stated that she heard he had been using suspicious money from his company. And he has 1 month to pay that money back, but he isn't allowed to touch his stocks or real estate. He asked if she is going to take care of the money for him. She stated that he doesn't seem happy about it. Was it an urgent issue for him? Yuyun elaborated that he had already been bit in the ass once, touching some stranger's money. And now, some woman he just met is offering to take care of his financial problem for him. Why should he trust her? Hyesu Han said she has conditions. He asked what she wanted in return, as he didn't think he had anything worth exchanging for. She stated there is something that's been bothering her, his sister from another mother. Yuyun Lee was surprised. He didn't know she was back in Korea. Hyesu stated not only that, but she's with her ex-husband, Muon Choi. She finally got his attention. He wanted her to tell him more. The next day at Glow Spa, Yurei was coughing, worrying Jianhua. He asked if she is alright. She thinks she might be catching a cold. He told her that it seemed like she had a bit of a fever too. Yurei told him she is okay. He thinks she should go home early today, once Yunseong comes in. She has to nip it in the bud in order for the illness not to escalate. It's the weekday and the weather isn't too great either, so he doesn't think she'll need to be there until closing. Yunseong finally arrived at work. Yurei took her lunch break at the convenience store. She grabbed a drink, snack, and some Tylenol for her lunch. As she sat by the window, Muon messaged if she had eaten yet. In the process of replying back to Muon, he called in. She picked up the call and he asked if she is just having lunch now. Yurei stated that it's really like this when she works in the store. She asked where he was. Muon had just got done with a meeting outside and was sitting in his car. He asked what she was having for lunch. Triangle kimbap. She told him. He asked if that is enough for her. She should eat in the cafeteria. He heard they were famous for having good food there. Yurei agreed. She heard about it too, to which Muon was surprised that she heard of it, but she hadn't tried it. Yurei stated that the hours of operations never match up with her breaks. The department store employees have set lunch times, but it's not like the salesman can just close the store or anything. She tried to let the male employees eat at the cafeteria as much as possible. They need to eat more than her after all. Suddenly, there was a pause on the other end. As she was wondering what's wrong, Muon scolded, "Just how the hell are they running things in the cafeteria? Do the salespeople eat lunch like that? Early in the morning?" Yuri told Muon the cafeteria hours are pretty long in the evening. So they eat a lot for dinner. Muon told her he'll take care of it. Then asked if she is free for dinner. She told him she probably caught a cold. So she is going home and will sleep early tonight. It finally clicked to Muon. She does sound a little sick. He asked if it's bad. Yuri assured Muon that it's not bad yet. She thinks it's best to treat it before it gets worse. He told her to rest up and he'll call her later. After he hung up the phone, the driver could feel the inferno flame raging behind the back seat. The driver feared that his boss was going to take it out on him. Muon asked Manager Nam which department is in charge of managing the cafeteria. Manager Nam reported it's the Department of General Affairs. Muon asked him to tell the department head to go to his office as soon as he arrived at the department store. Muon worried that Yurei was already working on her feet all day. She's got to at least eat well in his world. In the reception area, Secretary Kim hunched depressingly towards the desk. He complained to Secretary Nam that the president is crazy. Spending money on subcontractors when their revenues are down as it is? Secretary Nam could only nod his head in agreement that the president is indeed crazy. He's crazy for his ex-wife, that is. Waiting in front of the elevator, Muon thought, since he is not going out on a date today, maybe he'll meet up with Woo Jae-young. Then Ms. Han came up to him and waited for the elevator with him. Muon asked if she rested well yesterday. She replied, yes, since they made good progress. And her father's back in the country and wanted her to set up a meeting for them all to sit down for a meal. She could sit it out if he's uncomfortable. Muon replied it's fine. Set up at her own discretion. The elevator door opened and they got out. Just then, Ms. Han's phone rang. Must be good news for her on the other end. As Muon walked away, she stopped Muon and asked him if he is familiar with the term, the shining flower years. He answered, does it refer to the most beautiful time in one's life? She smirked and told him he's right. Apparently those years are unexpectedly short and unfulfilling. He asked what she meant by that. She said she is just letting him know. And then she excused herself. As she walked away, Muon thought he should put someone on her. He needs to find out what's going on. There's no harm in being safe. If that woman is going to choose a target, it'd be Yuri, for sure. He hoped she took his warning seriously. Yuri went back to work after her lunch, but was still feeling chills after taking medicine. Before she entered the door, Jianhua already greeted her worriedly. Before Jianhua could explain the situation, Yuyun came up to greet her. Yuri knew where her unsettling feelings were coming from. The heart thumping, chills down her spine, and hair standing on end. The feeling she feels every time she is near Yuyun Li. At Carpe Diem, Woo Jae-young brought a tray of delicious goodies to the table. Muon pointed at the dish and asked what it's doing there. He bought that in Gangneung yesterday. Woo Jae-young stated Junhee brought it over, saying it's too much for her. Muon reiterated that the person who bought so much for her is him. Muon confronted Woo Jae-young, asking if there is something going on between Woo Jae-young and Junhee. Woo Jae-young asked what was Muon talking about? Junhee gave it to him, probably out of pity. Muon thought he would be elated for Woo Jae-young if he found a lover, but if that lover is Junhee, then that's a completely different story. There is no way he can sit by and watch his sister's ex-husband and his wife's friend get together. On the side note, yep, that would be weird for me too. Muon then asked again, if there's really nothing going on between them? Irked by Muon's actions, Woo Jae-young asked if Muon was interrogating him. Muon went straight to the point that he is Woo Jae-young's friend, but he is also Haiwon's older brother and Junhee is his wife's friend. Woo Jae-young assured that he doesn't want there to be anything between them because of something like this either. Woo Jae-young asked why Muon went to Gangneung. He stated he took Yuri there. She used to live there before Songbuk-dong. He met some people who used to work at her place in Songbuk-dong, and it seems she really wasn't well off as a child. Woo Jae-young replied he guessed it couldn't have been a good situation for Yuri. After all, her family in Songbuk-dong wasn't feeling so great about taking a child from the outside. Muon replied it wasn't just about that. Yuri was apparently abused. He felt regretful. He thought when they got married, the bride must have thought it through and calculated everything before agreeing. The marriage was mutually beneficial, after all. And even after they got married, he thought he had let her do her own thing, and never really gave her a thought after dropping her off in Hanam-dong. Even when Mrs. Yoon set out to make her life hell, he couldn't do anything. He's just the same as those people in Songbuk-dong. That was probably why she wanted the divorce. Woo Jae-young assured his friend that it may not be what Yuri was thinking. Muon asked how he was sure of that. Woo Jae-young brought back an instance in the past. He met up with Yuri separately once, while he was working as a resident at his father's hospital. It was right before Muon them got a divorce. She was there with Secretary Sung. Back then, he thought she was there because of a pregnancy, He thought he would congratulate Yurei, so he asked her out for a cup of tea. But it turned out to be stress gastritis. He teased her by asking whether it was hard to live with Muon. And he apologized in Muon's stead, as Muon's friend, if Muon was too difficult to deal with. But what he heard from her was that Muon was a really good person, polite and just a person who never picks on the weak. So, as someone who is friends with Muon and knows him better than anyone else, if such a person like Yurei wanted a divorce, there must have been some other reason. Muon pondered and recalled a memory from recently. Their previous marriage anniversary was her mother's Remembrance Day. At night, Yurei slept on the bed, feeling restless. She felt cold. This incessant frost biting into her bones is similar to what she felt in the storage room in Songbuk-dong. Whether she met someone's eyes, or because her footsteps were too loud walking up the stairs, or even because she put her silverware down on the table too loudly, she was dragged immediately to that storage room. The storage room, attached to the outbuilding located past the garden, crawled with bugs in the summer, and in the winter was cold enough to make her heart ache after just a couple of hours. One day in January, when the snow had not yet melted, and everyone had left, and her aunt was taking a nap, Yuyun Li, the only one who could have opened the door for her, sneered at her and left. Her consciousness faded away as she shivered throughout the night. She was only discovered after the sun had risen, and her father returned home. She was so sick that she had to be admitted to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with pneumonia. Perhaps it's because of what happened at the department store. She can feel the fear, pain and coldness of that day, flooding back to her all at once. Earlier at the store when Yuyun came, intimidated her, belittling her taste in product quality. He picked a piece of shirt and flung it towards Yurei. Jianhua came to stop the rude behavior, but Yurei stopped him and said she'll take care of it. Since that man was someone she knew. Yuyun said it was pretty disappointing. She is calling her older brother someone she knew. Yurei shouted at him to get out, that this is a business place. Yuyun Li stated he heard his younger sister was back in Korea, working in Songwon department store. At that, he couldn't believe his ears. Yurei told him to get out. Her business with Songbuk-dong ended 3 years ago. If he causes any more commotion, she will call security. Yuyun grinned and said he just wanted to say hello for today. He brought up her father, who seemed to age quite a bit. But it was not a nice place to visit. It's cold and she's older now. After all, he knew just how to throw salt on her wounds and poke where it hurts. Yuyun patted her shoulder and told her he would see her soon as he made his way out the door. In Songbuk-dong, Madam shouted at Yuyun, how could he get involved with a girl at this time, knowing his father's situation? What good will come out of him burning bridges with his in-laws, with the state of the company as it is? Yuyun stated Sungwon Group is the bigger problem, not his in-laws. How could Yurei still not have any news about having kids? It's been so long since she has gotten married, and still hasn't gotten pregnant. Yurei stood by the door listening to her stepmother and stepbrother talking about her. They needed to make her pregnant with Muon Choi in order to use that to get funding from Muon. Madam asked what good having a kid at this point does for them. Yuyun reasoned that if Muon Choi planned on kicking them out, he would have tossed them out on the street as soon as this issue blew up. But all he's done now is cut off funding for them. Since Muon Choi was not doing much, then Yurei must be behaving. After all, her mom treated father well. Madam slammed her hand on the table, scolding him what good it does by bringing up that woman for. How long is Yuyun going to keep her mom a secret for? Yuyun replied for a little while. They would be losing out if Yurei suddenly filed for divorce or something like that. The reasons the creditors and shareholders are staying put is that they know Yusung has the Sungwon Group behind them. He heard she needed a liver transplant. The scene changed to the hospital. The doctor looked at the chart and said he was told that Yurei went abroad and that surgery wouldn't be possible. It says on the chart, too. Did no one contact her at all? Yurei said no one contacted her at all. Yuyun cut Yurei off by saying that Yurei stated she wouldn't take it anyway. Yurei scolded Yuyun that he should at least tell her. She could have tried to convince her mother. Yuyan stated having a surgery like that done right before her wedding. Doesn't she know how important that wedding was? Yurei trembled in extreme anger. A person could have been saved if only she'd received the transplant on time. She knelt on the floor, screamed in pain. They all killed her mother. They all are murderers. It's not fair. Her mother's death and everything she had to endure, if all they wanted was a wedding, even at the cost of keeping her dying mother a secret. She wanted a divorce. She's tired of living like this. She hated his aunt, this house. She hated living as his wife. Yurei was awoken to dreams of her past as Junhee came in to check on her. Yurei told Junhee that it hurts. Junhee checked her forehead and said she could see that and suggested they should go to the hospital. Yurei declined going to the hospital. She wished to take some pills and rest instead. She thinks she'll be all right if she just rests for a day. In the office, Manwha couldn't concentrate on his work. There are a lot of things on his schedule today, but he just cannot focus at all. But more importantly, Yurei hasn't called him a single time today. He took out his phone and it was 3:44 p.m. No matter how busy, she always asks whether he has eaten, or what he's up to. That evening, all he could think about was her, wondering if she was busy. Has something happened to her? Or is she very sick? He called her and she won't pick up. He thought she should have gotten off work by now. Suddenly the phone was picked up by Junhee, which surprised Manwha. He asked if Junhee was with Yurei. Junhee told him that Yurei was really sick right now. She thought it might be the flu, but she has a really bad fever. He asked if she went to the hospital yet. Junhee told Manwha that Yurei did not want to go to the hospital. She told Junhee she'd felt better in the morning, but Junhee stopped by again after work and Yurei's condition worsened. Manwha told Junhee he was on his way. While on his way, he thought he should have taken her to the hospital right away yesterday, when she said she wasn't feeling well. He shouldn't have sent her off then. Manwha scolded himself for being such an idiot. When he arrived at Junhee's place, she showed him to Yurei. He gently lifted her up a little bit. Yurei's face was flushed red as sweat dripped down her face. She called him, softly, Manwha? He answered that it was him, Manwha. He suggested they go to the hospital. She is burning up with a fever. Yurei said she doesn't want to. It's just her body acting up with a cold. It'll be harder for her to go to the hospital for a checkup right now. Manwha could only comply with her request. He dialed a phone number and stated that Yurei's sick. The other person said they will be right there. Manwha handed the phone to Junhee to provide direction to the person on the phone. Junhee took the phone and provided the address while Manwha took care of Yurei. He mumbled that she practically lost half her weight in a day. Once again. He was only forced to watch her suffer. Wu Jiang arrived and put an IV on Yurei. He told them they'll have to keep an eye on her. Manwha asked Junhee if it's okay for him to stay by Yurei's side tonight, which took Junhee and Wu Jiang by surprise. Wu Jiang then asked if Junhee wanted to go catch a midnight movie. Manwha glared at Wu Jiang. A midnight movie? Wu Jiang reasoned that Junhee will probably be uncomfortable if Manwha stays here. Before Manwha could scold Wu Jiang, Junhee agreed that they should go catch a midnight movie. Manwha sent death threats to Wu Jiang, warning him not to forget what he told Wu Jiang. Wu Jiang retorted, he's the one recklessly asking to stay at the home of two women. Manwha must have forgotten that he was the one who treated her. Manwha realized Wu Jiang was right. He reluctantly agreed for Wu Jiang and Junhee to go watch a movie. Manwha sat next to Yurei, wondering when will the medicine kicked in. She still felt hot. Just as he reached out his hand to check her forehead, Yurei muttered that she is cold. Manwha sighed, feeling helpless, and climbed on the bed. Feeling the heat furnace next to her, she snuggled closer to him, hugging the heat furnace tightly, leaving Manwha flustered. She could drive him so crazy even in this state of health. Manwha could only allow her to do as she pleases, while he tried to hold himself back. The next day, birds chirped through the windows. Yurei woke up to see the charming Muon's angelic face in front of her. She wondered how long he had been sleeping next to her. She attempted to get up but her leg was tucked between Muon's leg. And she can feel his treasure erecting. Yurei blushed and thought, it's the morning. It must be because it's the morning. As she attempted to get out, Muon asked if she slept well. Muon touched her head and noticed she still had a bit of fever. Yurei stated she is fine, and did he spend the night there? Does Junhee know? Muon said of course, he got Junhee's permission. Yurei told Muon she felt like she's been too much of a burden to Junhee, but then Muon bit her earlobe. After punishing her, he let go and asked what about being a burden to him. She asked what he meant. He elaborated, the bed was small, her fever wasn't going down, so she kept clinging to him for warmth. How could he possibly fall asleep? Yurei told him she is sorry. Muon told her if she is truly sorry, then don't get sick again. She asked what time was it. Muon replied, it's 5:30 a.m. She should stay in bed a little longer. Yurei said there is a new part-timer coming in today. So she got to go in. Muon object. Her fever hasn't gotten that much better and she was supposed to stay in bed for 4 days, so don't go to the store. Yurei reasoned that she had to check up on the store and Muon told her she got to trust the staff she chose sometimes. And if she is tired, she should say she is tired. And if she is sick, say that she is sick. After that, he told her he is leaving. Junhee is sleeping now, but he'll only be a burden once she wakes up. So she shouldn't go out and rest. He'll come later tonight. She better be sleeping. Muon stroked her cheek and told her they should have dinner tonight. As he stepped out to the living room, he already missed her. This must be why people get married. He thought. Before he left, Yurei came from behind and gave him a great big, tight hug. She thanked him for staying with her last night and apologized for troubling him. Muon smiled and said it's not so bad sometimes, if he can get hugs like this. Yurei said she will hug him a lot from now on. Muon chuckled and told her, on second thought, maybe not. He doesn't think he'll be able to handle it. Yurei questioned, does he mean he won't be able to handle her? Muon leaned in closer to Yurei and explained, he doesn't think he'll be satisfied with just a kiss. At work, Muon made a speech presentation before walking around the store. Secretary Nam followed him as he made his rounds. Muon arrived at Glow Spa. Secretary Nam asked Jianwo, where is madam? Then quickly recollected himself, where's the manager? Jianwo informed them that Yuri was sick yesterday and today, she hasn't come in. Muon asked if there was anything out of the ordinary? Out of the ordinary? Jianwo thought about it and mentioned that there was a strange customer coming in these days. Yunsong tried to stop Jianwo. To Jianwo, it was really estranged, worth mentioning. As the two contemplated, Muon asked them to talk. Yunsong stated there was a big incident a couple of days ago, when a strange customer came into the store and made a mess. He was just here a moment ago too. Muon asked if they called security. They didn't call, because he seemed to be someone the manager knew personally. He didn't actually ask anything in particular, aside from whether the manager was in today or not. Muon asked what time was it when the man came in and caused a commotion 2 days ago? Jianwo answered about 3:30 p.m. Muon called Secretary Nam. He answered and stated he will review CCTV footage immediately. Back in his office, Muon reviewed the CCTV footage. He saw Yuyun making a mess of the store and throwing a shirt at her. Just the thought that this was how she had been treated by them, Muon felt so upset at the SOB Yuyun. He's not getting away with this. Muon took out his phone to call Yurei. He called to check if everything was alright with her. Yurei answered that everything was alright but was wondering when he would get there since he wanted to have dinner together. Muon looked at the time and it was already late. He told her he'll leave as soon as he finished approving the financial transactions. So, he'll be there in an hour. He asked how her fever was. She took some medicine in the morning and took a nap. She felt better now. what about him? Since he didn't get any sleep last night. Muon told Yurei that he was fine. She should start getting ready and stop worrying about him. After he hung, he went back to the CCTV video and thought of what to do with that SOB Yuyun. Back at Junhee's apartment, Yuri took a couple dresses to decide which one she should wear. She felt like something was missing. Then she took out a gift box. Inside it was the watch she bought for her father. She cannot get away from it, no matter where she goes. She bought it with her first paycheck from the internship. It's not anything expensive, but she still chose it carefully. Yuri presented the watch to her father with pride, but he never actually wore that watch once. She remembered Yuyun brought a watch for her father's birthday. He thanked Yuyun and wore the watch that Yuyun gifted him. Before she left to America, her father asked the lawyer to pass the watch back to her. She wanted to ask why, but the lawyer said her father wanted him to tell her to be free. He said it might help her. She guessed her father chose Yuyun Lee after all. Perhaps it's some sort of lingering regret that prevents her from throwing it away. Suddenly her thoughts were brought back by the sound of someone knocking on the door. Yurei thought it was Muon that had arrived. She headed to the door joyfully, which didn't last long when the person behind the door was Yuyun. Yuyun smirked, not expecting that kind of welcoming. Taken aback by his appearance, she asked what he was doing there. Yuyun asked, does Yurei think he left her alone until now, because he didn't know where she lived? Yurei thought he left her alone, probably because he had no use for her, until now, that is, she told him to go away and tried closing the door. Yuyun stopped the door with his foot and forced the door open. He wanted to talk to her. She had nothing to talk with him about. Angered, he pulled her hand and questioned who taught her to talk back like that. Yurei asked him to let her go. He slammed her to the ground and ordered her to listen up. He didn't leave her alone until now out of the kindness of his heart. Then he grabbed Yurei by the collar and continued that because he was adamant that Yuyun please leave her alone. Side note, he might have meant their father. But the situation has changed. He heard that she was seeing Muon Choi. Yurei asked what does that have to do with him? Yuyun replied it has a lot to do with him. His company is not doing well these days. He is going to need some help from the Sungwon group, just like in the old days. He is not asking her to do a whole lot. He just needed her to ask Muon to help put out the fires. Yurei needed to pay them for what they spent on her upbringing and education. Yurei rejected and stated she already paid them back plenty during her marriage. Knowing she wasn't buying it, Yuyun brought up her mom. They paid for all of her mother's hospital fees. Yurei could only laugh as no other emotion could quell the anger, madness, sadness within her. Yurei questioned how dared he said that after he lied to both her and her father and basically killed her mother. Yuyun told Yurei that her father knew as well. He was the one that acted as her mother's guardian back then. Her father was also the one that organized her mother's funeral. That was how important that wedding was to their father, too. And it's the same now. He put his hand on her shoulder. But Yurei slapped his hand away and yelled at him to not even think about it. Get back together? She will never let him and his family get what they want. He should leave and don't ever go to her again. Plap. Yuyun slapped Yuri. You bitch. He shouted loudly at her. It sounded like she needed a harder beating. He raised his hand about to land another slap on Yurei. She closed her eyes and embraced for the next hit. She didn't feel the slap. Slowly opening her eyes, she saw a strong, sturdy back standing in front of her and Yuyun lying on the ground. He was kicked on the ground by Muon. He grabbed Yuyun by the collar, lifted him up and smacked his face. Muon kept throwing punches at Yuyun, to which Yuyun couldn't do anything as Muon's strength was too insane. Unable to watch the brutal fight, Yurei tried stopping Muon. After hearing her scream for him to stop, he finally stopped throwing punches. The swollen face and bloody nose, Yuyun shouted, "Bastard! Are you out of your mind?" Muon told him, he's been so close to losing his mind for real these days. Does Yuyun really want him to? Yuyun shouted at Muwan that he's still Muwan's older brother-in-law. Muwan scoffed at him, brother-in-law? Then kicked Yuyun and told Yuyun to get lost. Muwan doesn't need a brother-in-law like him. And if he ever shows his face in front of Yurei again, he won't let Yuyun get off this easily. Back inside Junhee's apartment, Muwan gently caressed Yurei's swollen cheek as he told her to stay at his place for the time being. She told him it was okay. There was no need for that. Muwan said it might be okay for her, but Junhee probably doesn't feel that way. Plus there was no guarantee that Yuyun wouldn't come back. But still, to be with him, Yurei hesitated. Muwan reasoned that she had to be with him for Yuyun to think twice about doing anything to her. Is she uncomfortable being alone with him? Yurei denied that was not the reason, but there are a lot of eyes around him. There will be people who work for him, Secretary Sung, going back and forth frequently. Muwan guaranteed privacy. The people who clean and organize only come by once every 2 days and have no relation to the people in Pyeonchang. Secretary Sung doesn't have time to worry about him much these days either, because of his father. Yurei was worried and asked if his father was okay. Muwan said his father is a little ill, not wanting to go into further details. He held her waist and pulled her closer, telling her that he cannot do anything when she's alone, because he gets so worried. Yurei finally gave in and told him she'll be in his care then, but only for a little while. With that, she left a note for Junhee and left with Muwan. At Muwan's flat, the place was so big. The bedroom has its own bathroom, so feel free to use it whenever she wants to. Muwan stated they should eat dinner first and unpack later. Yurei asked if they can eat at home. She doesn't want to go outside. Muwan doesn't have much to eat at home. He told her to rest for a bit while he went to buy something for them. Yurei insisted he should go eat alone as she doesn't have much of an appetite. Muwan refused as she had gotten thinner. She needed to eat for her own good. He told her to wait while he walked out to make a phone call. Yurei sighed as she sat on the bed, thinking of what Yuyun said earlier. Her father knew, too. And she held on for so long, and was only able to, because she had her father with her. Yurei. Muwan called for her. He knelt down in front of her and asked if she was hungry. On the dining table was a lot of food, nicely set up, fresh too. Yurei asked if he bought it. It looked like someone came by instead. Muwan stated he bought it and set it up. Muwan scooped a bowl of soup and handed it over to Yurei. She was awestruck seeing him serve her. He asked why is she staring at him like that. She thought it was interesting to see him do these kinds of things. Muwan smiled and told her he learned a lot of things. Would she like him to show some more interesting things from now on? Yurei blushed and declined the offer. If he does show her other things, they will give her a heart attack. Yurei looked at all the side dishes and they are all her favorites from Songbukdong. She asked Muwan. How did he know? Muwan told Yurei, the lady said she used to cook at Songbukdong. Yurei said, the lady from Kangwon. It must be because they share the same hometown, but her food tasted similar to her mother's. But how does Muwan know her? Muwan didn't want to say it but had to anyway. He told her it was Duyun that told him about her. It seemed like they'd been in contact for a long time. She has a restaurant now. After hearing this, Yurei felt relieved. She was worried because the lady didn't leave on good terms. Muwan grabbed Yurei's hand and told Yurei the elder lady wanted to see Yurei. They should go see her together next time. At bedtime, Muwan laid on the bed, replaying what happened earlier. He heard Yurei yell at Yuyun, "Get back together? I'll never let you get what you want. So leave and don't come back." Muwan sighed, unable to get past those words. Then, a knock came from the door. Yurei asked if he fell asleep. Muwan sat up and told her no. What's the matter? He was dazed, seeing her looking so delicious in the nightgown. At the door, Yurei asked Muwan if he wants to sleep together. To which he was instantly tempted, but he asked what she meant by that. She asked for clarification. He elaborated that is she asking to literally sleep together on the same bed? Or be intimate, as a man and woman? She blushed and replied it's whatever he wanted, to which Muon felt disappointed. Those were the words he longed to hear for so long, but this isn't how he wanted to hear them. He padded to the area next to him and asked her to go over. Yurei walked over to the bed and laid next to him. Embracing her in his arms, he told her good night. She was confused and asked if he wanted her to just go to sleep. Muon asked if she does not want to. She said it's not that, but... Before she could finish her sentence, Muon answered her. She was the one that is still trying to make up her mind about him. That she needed time. Since she still doesn't seem to be so sure about him. He doesn't want to proceed to the next base until she is sure of her feelings for him. If Yurei had known about the Kongwon lady, she would have been able to settle down in Songbukdong. And yet, the fact that Muon still hasn't mentioned Yuyun Li must mean that he's waiting for her to tell him. Made up her mind to open up a little bit of her past, she told Muon. She had always thought her mother sold her away, because that's what Yuyun and his mother would always tell her. The entire time she was Songbukdong, she despised and hated her mother. She thought countless times, why even have her if this is how she is going to be thrown away? But it turned out that her mother was hurting so much to the point her mother couldn't raise her. It started out as stomach cancer, then spread to her liver. Things weren't looking good, but she definitely would have been able to live as long if she had got a proper liver transplant. Apparently, she even reached out to Yurei several times. But the people at Songbukdong hid that from her because of her marriage to Muon. Their wedding anniversary is Yurei's mother's death anniversary. Their marriage was important business to the people at Songbukdong, so she didn't want those people happy by staying married to Muon. She had not once decided anything for herself ever since she went to Songbukdong, other than their divorce. She didn't know they'd come back and try to force her to marry him again. Still, she thought her father was different. He knew how hard it was for her, how much she missed her mother. Yurei began to sob in Muon's embrace. He asked what can he do for her. She told him he already did plenty for her. It meant so much that she cannot even express it in words. He asked Yurei, despite all they have, she still doesn't want to get back together because of Songbukdong? She wanted to live her life for herself, not dictated by others. She felt like that's the only way she'll be able to face her mother. Muon could only agree to her decision. He told her to do whatever she wanted to do. The next day, Muon got first to get ready for work. Yurei was still curled in bed. As he got ready, he made a phone call to set up a lunch meeting for tomorrow. He will not let Yurei put up with it alone, not anymore. At the office, the secretary came in with the report on Manager Han per Muon's request. The secretary received the report, but there's someone Manager Han has been meeting with these days that's bothering him. Muon took the iPad and looked at the CCTV clips that were recorded in the underground parking lot. Manager Han was seen meeting with Yurei's step-brother Yuyun Li. The scene changed to the lunch meeting. Muon sat across from Duyun Kong. Duyun reported that Yuyun has found his funding to get past his most immediate problems. Muon asked if the funder is Hyesu Han and Han Jiang-wol. This startled Duyun as to how Muon already knew. Muon told Duyun that he expected Hyesu Han to be scheming something, but he had no idea she would go this far. He was curious as to why that skeptical President Han would allow himself to be involved in such a thing, but it turned out they have an interesting connection. Duyun took out a recorder and played a clip. Yuyun could be heard saying he didn't plan on going this far either, but he had to get Muon back for what Muon had done to his face. He asked Hyesu Han if she is scared. She replied, of course. It is a felony. Yuyun stated it's just a tranquilizer they use for animals. Couples use it all the time. It's a party drug. More importantly, there is no problem with the video team. They're good as long as there is no problem. Hyesu Han sounded hesitant. She agreed what he said was true, but she thinks this is a bit crazy. All she wanted was for Yurei to break up with Muon. Yuyun asked if it was that easy. Why did she go to him? She even promised to loan him that huge sum of money. She had to remember that she was the one that made the proposition to a crazy bastard in the first place. Manwha felt so furious. He wanted to know where Duyun got the recording from. Manwha knew there was something wrong with him, but how could he, to his own sister? Duyun stated, he didn't eat and drink with Yuyun all these times for nothing. He has every location and person he's in regular contact with recorded. Just so Manwha knows, this was illegally recorded, so he cannot submit it as evidence. Manwha stated, the people behind him aren't too fond of Han Jiang wool. He asked Duyun how much the first transaction amount was. $20 million. Duyun replied. Manwha stated that's too much money for Hyeso Han to be acting alone, but it's not like President Han to take matters like these into his own hands either. Duyun agreed and reported that Hyeso Han seemed to have laid her hands on the Han Jiang slush funds. He knows exactly how large the slush fund budget is from an investigation he conducted in the past, and it's quite sizable. Though the majority of it is money received from subcontractors or partners. Manwha interrupted Duyun that he will take care of it. He wanted to take care of Yuyun Li as well. Duyun clenched the recorder tightly and stated that's a bit of a problem. Yuyun Li is the prey that he had his sights on for a while now. For the first payment, he will send out a promissory note. He'll take all the stocks and land and sell it for pennies, too. He will make Yuyun Li lose everything he's got, though it won't even compare to what he, Duyun, had lost. To be honest, he does not even want to let that SOB live until the first repayment day. Manwha was still trying to comprehend, how could someone do such a thing to his younger sisters even if they aren't fully related? Duyun replied, they aren't related. Yuyun and Yuri. They're not related in any way at all. Manwha's eyes widened in surprise. He asked for clarification. Duyun explained that Yuyun is the bastard son of his mother's affair. And the reason Yuri was able to live in Songbukdong, to Yuyun Li, not only is Yuri not his younger sister. She's an invader who stole what was his. At night back in Manwha's flat, Yuri was making dinner while on the phone with Manwha if he is going to be back really late. Manwha said he will be late. She was disappointed but couldn't help it. She wished him good night. Before she hung up, Manwha told her that Secretary Kim is going to be sticking around her for the time being. She asked why. He told her he is just anxious. Manwha stated, Secretary Kim is not the kind of person that'll be conspicuous and make her feel uncomfortable. So, just let him around for a little while. Yuri agreed to Manwha's setup. She understood he would be like that since he witnessed what Yuyun Li did. She turned off the stove and stared at the fish she planned to cook for Manwha, but that seems unnecessary. After dinner, she got ready for bed and slept alone in the huge house by herself. The next day, she received a message from Manwha. He has things to take care of which he does not think he will be able to go home for a while. She should take some time to relax. Sitting on the bed reading the message, she felt so lonely without him. The house felt bigger without him. As she sat in the car to work, she thought, what a silly thing she said. It's only been a day without him. At work, Yunsong and Jianwu greeted her excitedly. They rushed to her like puppies who haven't seen their owners for days, asking if she is feeling all better now. She told them she is all better and thanked them for the good work, handling everything while she was gone. She then noticed extra things in the shop. Jianwu told her they added more CCTVs and the security guard placements changed too. Jianwu said it was all the CEO. Yunsong said the CEO also told them to call security if there's anyone strange. Also, the higher-up got rid of the employee restaurant hours. Jianwu explained cheerfully that they can eat whenever they want now. Isn't that great? Yuri smiled happily to herself thinking he really took care of that, too. Just how much is he planning on doing to make her feel touched? Even when they got the divorce, and when there was trouble with the Taesung department store, even when she was having a hard time because of Han Jiang wool's interference. Manwha came to help and protected her. She should thank him for all the times he was there for her. and tell him that she really, really likes him. Another night, Muon sent a text that he will be late, that Yurei should go ahead and sleep. She was disappointed again. She wondered if something was wrong. She looked at the fish she hadn't cooked and thought she should throw the fish away. She was fine even when she didn't see him for a month, right after they got married. She looked at the empty large bedroom, feeling so empty without his presence. She sniffed the blanket, missing him so much already, so much more than she thinks, and she just feels. While deep in thought, the door creaked open, which disrupted her. Yurei turned to the door and saw Muon standing there. He asked if she was awake as he walked towards the bed. She sat up and asked if he just got back. He told her he just got off. She suddenly threw her arms across his neck and pulled him in for a hug, stating she was dying to see him. Muon was content hearing her confess. He gently caressed her cheek and told her he missed her too. He slept less than 5 hours in the past 4 days. Yurei was surprised at how busy he had been. He told her he had to take care of something important. Some files were thrown in front of the table. Haiso-han picked up a file and asked who would do such a thing. Does that matter right now? President Han scolded, pointing his finger at his daughter. She hasn't the slightest idea of how much of an issue power tripping in these days? They were able to stop all the articles in a hurry, but if the issue ran wild on social media, they wouldn't be able to shut it down. Haisa told her father that she will take care of it. He asked how. She explained Belga is the biggest problem they have right now after all. She'll just agree to merge the brand. There were complaints regarding it in the first place. In the shop, Haisa told the manager it is not too late now, so they should shut down the social media accounts and order their employees to keep quiet. Otherwise, Hanjiang Wools will stop all brand contracts, let alone the subcontracts. The manager told Haisu to go ahead. They aren't going to continue getting dragged around by this power trip of hers anymore. Furious, Haiso-han asked if he just said power trip. The man stated he has been silent this whole time, but their salespeople are complaining about the sales guarantee. As for the subcontracts, whether they get cancelled or discontinued, as it is unilateral destruction of Hanjiang Wool, and they will have to pay a penalty. Haiso-han scowled and yelled at the Belga shop manager. He must be full of himself. Does he think they can survive after doing this to Hanjiang Wool? The manager replied calmly, they signed a brand name contract with the Sungwon department store. They decided to produce it if Sungwon brings in a designer and make a brand as a collaboration. The conditions will also be higher than the amount paid by Hanjiang Wool. This took Haiso-han by surprise. She knew it must be the work of Muon Choi. After she left, she dialed Muon and asked if he happened to have a brand deal with Belga. Muon stated he is meeting with President Han at the moment so they can talk about this issue later. In the meeting with President Han, Muon placed the file documents on the table and explained that it is a list of rebates that Ms. Han has received from her subcontractors. The nervous President Han asked why he brought this up. Muon explained if handled by the book, it's breach of trust and embezzlement. Even if it's customary at Hanjiang Wool Company, that isn't the case at his department store. He had warned her that he would not stand still if she made his woman cry again. Your woman? President Han questioned. He thought Muon was on good terms with Haisu? Muon explained that he made it clear from the beginning that he had no intention of marrying Ms. Han. President Han asked what about Haisu that Muon doesn't like so much. His daughter isn't short of anything. Muon stated, the problem isn't with Ms. Han. It's simply that the woman he wants isn't her. There always has been only one woman that he considered as his wife after all. President Han apologized to Muon on behalf of any mistakes his daughter may have caused. It's noisy outside already. He did not wish to make it a bigger issue than. Muon stated he felt the same way too. However, it's a different story if Ms. Han continues using the planning process with Hanjiang Wool's slush fund. It seemed like it may be an issue related to his former wife's family after all. President Han asked what Muon meant by the planning process. Muon told him to ask his daughter or check her borrowed account. It's best for him to take care of it quickly since there are already rumors about the fund. In the cafeteria at Taesung department store, people could be hard at gossiping about the Hangjiang wool and Belga situation. According to the news, earlier, the way Ms. Han looked, seems like the trending news. Yurei ate her food calmly as she is not affected by all this gossip. She wondered if this is what Muon was working on. After finishing her food, she got up to put her tray away when her phone rang. Muon asked where she was. She told him she was at the cafeteria. He asked if she had eaten. She replied she just ate now. She heard that he was the one who adjusted the operation hours for the cafeteria. All the partner company employees are full of praise. Muon stated, it's important for the store sales staff to be happy and comfortable with work. She asked if he had any plans this evening. If not, at 7 p.m., he should go over. They should eat dinner together. Muon stated he would like something other than dinner, which caused Yuri's face to redden. She answered, then that too. Muon instantly halted his action and covered his blushed face. Why does she ask for the obvious? He had been waiting this whole time. Yurei told him to meet her early, because this time, she will be waiting for him. Muon told Yurei he will see her later. After hanging up the phone, Muon felt all mushy, unable to concentrate on his work. He wondered to himself, he felt all like this even at a single word she said. What if he has a heart attack when they actually get to it? Sadly, all his good feelings didn't last long. It was instantly shattered by the door that was slammed open. Entered, was the angry, huffing Ms. Han. Muon sighed and asked what she wanted. She growled, how could he do that to her? He signed a brand contract with Belga. Muon didn't waste time playing around. He took out the recorder Duyun gave him and played it to her. He asked, how could she be this way too? She heard the conversation she had with Yuyun played in the recorder. Her anger instantly changed to nervousness. How? How could he have that recorder? Muon stated for them both to not ask each other for the reasons or how it was discouraged, because she probably knew without having him tell her. Even if they were to dig more, it won't be good for them anyways. Ms. Han covered her mouth in shock. Muon got up from his chair and stood in front of Ms. Han. He told her beforehand, didn't he? That he would not stand by if she still made his woman cry. What does she think if this gets out to the police or the press? Ms. Han stepped back, scared shitless, and begged Muon to spare her. Muon asked if she received a call from President Han. He is sure that she doesn't have a large enough fund to handle Yusun Corporation's repayment, so it's probably Chairman Han's fund that she was using. She probably had someone from the inside to help her. And he must be in trouble by now. So, she should get going. Just then her phone rang. Muon stated that he is sure she has a lot to settle right now. They can talk once that's over. Muon looked content watching Ms. Han leaves without turning back. After work, Muon drove by the food truck selling taiyaki. He personally went out to buy taiyaki for his woman, while ruminating over the fact that Yuyun isn't Yurei's father's biological son. Thinking of Yuri sobbing in his embrace, he questioned whether it's possible to make such a decision, even turning a blind eye to his own bloodline. But then, there is a father who has neglected his son all his whole life too. Yuri greeted Muon cheerfully as he arrived home. He handed her a bag and told her he saw it on his way back and bought it on the way. He then saw the food on the table and asked why she made so much. And she cannot even eat fish. She assured him that it's gotten a lot better since Songbukdong. She was almost done, so he should go change. Muon gently caressed her cheek and agreed. He finally understood why he couldn't fill the void inside him even when he spent so much time fixing the house in Hanamdong. The warmth and love from someone that he's never felt before was vacant, just waiting for someone he loved. After dinner, the lovely couple sat on the couch while Yurei munched on the taiyaki. She asked if he would like some. He declined, stating he is full. Besides, it isn't to his taste. She asked him curiously, then. What is his taste? He gazed at her passionately and leaned in for a kiss, and whispered to her ear, you. She blushed remembering the conversation earlier. Muon leaned in for more kisses. She let go of the taiyaki and wrapped her arms around his neck for support, thinking, why is her heart fluttering so much today? He lifted her body onto his lap while not letting go of her lips. They caressed each other and kissed deeply as to devour each other, which is driving Muon crazy. He slid his fingers under her skirt. Feeling his hand under her skirt, she stopped him. She doesn't think they should do this right after dinner. She should take a shower and get ready. Frustrated, he asked since when have they ever needed to get ready for this. She told him no, and to go to her room in 30 minutes. Why would a shower take 30 minutes? Muon questioned. Maybe they should just take the shower together. Yurei, still blushing, leaned in to give him a kiss to bribe him and told him no. She will see him soon. She left him feeling in heat and flustered. Damn. This woman, just. Some time has passed and Muon, clearing his throat as he stood in front of the door, announced that he was going in. Even though it's a bit early, but he thinks he waited long enough. He opened the door and didn't see Yurei in sight, but noticed the rose petals spread on the bed, a table set up with white flowers, candlelight and wine. He sat on the couch feeling happy, she had prepared a lot for tonight. As he waited for her, he saw a box, it was a vintage watch. While holding the box, wondering why it was there, Yurei came out of the bathroom in her nightgown. She asked what he was looking at. She noticed he was holding a watch. Her mood instantly dispirited. She told him she set it aside to throw away. He asked why she was throwing it away. Isn't it brand new? She told Muon the watch was a present to her father with her first paycheck as an intern. On the day she left for America, he had a lawyer return it to her. She took it as a sign of wanting to cut all ties with her, since she's nothing more than a burden for her father. She understood it in her head, yet it was hard to get over it. But she finally decided to throw it away. Muon thought, first it was the thing with Yuyun and now this. He just doesn't get it. Her father seemed like he really loved his daughter. He asked Yurei, as she came to sit down next to him, if the watch was custom-made since it has a unique design. Yurei told him that it was made by a pretty well-known craftsman. Her father never wore it once, the waiting list is so long that it took a few months for her to get it. Muon asked if he could have it then? Yurei was startled. She questioned if he really wanted the watch. The watch was something of significance to her, and he liked the design. With this explanation, Yurei readily agreed. He can have it since she didn't want to keep it around anymore. She asked if he wanted to try it on. As she took the watch out of its box, something fell out. Yurei told Muon that the thing wasn't in there when she gave it to him. Muon grabbed the item, which seemed like a USB, and asked if it's her father that put it in this box. Yurei was not sure as the person who delivered it did not tell her anything. This is actually her first time opening it since she received it back. Muon excused himself for a minute. He walked to his workroom and inserted the USB to his computer. Yuri came and sat next to Muon while he opened the file folder. It was a video, and in the video, Yurei saw Chief Secretary Kong. He asked if she knows that person. She said he is Duyun's father. Chief Secretary Jaiwan Kong. In the video, Yuyun and the chief secretary were talking. Then Yuyun went to the counter with a glass. He was seen putting some drugs in the drink. The secretary took the drink and was seen gasping. At this moment, Muon covered Yurei's eyes and told her not to watch it. The next day, Muon was seen visiting Yurei's father. He came with a gift for her father. Yurei's father told him to have a seat. Muon brought out the taiyaki fish. He thought her father might like it, to which Yurei's father answered with a mild smile that he does. Yurei's father noticed the watch on Muon's wrist and questioned why he had it. Muon stated he received it from Yurei. Her father asked if they are dating again. Muon stated, yes, and why did he give Yurei the watch back? Her father stated that he wanted to free her. Muon asked if he knew how her life was in Songbukdong. He replied he found out later how harsh her life in Songbukdong was. This answer angered Muon. He questioned her father, then why didn't he embrace her if he knew? Isn't she his only biological child? Yurei's father was startled and questioned how he knew. Does Yurei know as well? Muon said that Yurei still doesn't know. Flashback to many years in the past, Yurei's father was a boy. Sitting in a small room where he used to wait for his mother while she sold fish at the market, while he flipped through books with his cold hands, someone would leave bunjiapang, side note, bunjinpang is taiyaki in Japan, in front of his door. It was the girl that loved bunjiapang more than anyone, the daughter of the tailor next door. They naturally became lovers. When he got a job at a major company, her father tailored a suit for him. Almost everyone thought that they would get married. But his mother sometimes made a fuss about it, but it was okay, that is until the chairman's daughter butted in out of nowhere. His mother did not permit the marriage and guilt-trip him. After all she sacrificed to raise him, he was going to get married to the tailor's daughter. Why doesn't he want to elevate himself to a higher position by marrying into money? He begged for his mother's approval, but she attempted suicide to force him to marry the chairman's daughter. In the end, he ended up marrying the chairman's daughter like his mother's wish. After their marriage, he was finally able to settle down, watching his son grow up. There was no way his mother, who cried and scolded him for not showing up to his father's death anniversary, could have known that the chairman's daughter-in-law, whom she greatly desired to be a part of the family, would not once celebrate her birthday or commemorate her death anniversary. She did not even get to see her grandson's face once before she passed away. One day, he had a guest. It was Yurei's mother. Jian. She needed money. Her father collapsed a few years ago from cancer, and the cancer cells were so widespread, he was inoperable. All the years of chemo had cost them their house, store, and all their savings. It had got to a point where she had to ask the man who left her for another woman money. Though he gave her so much more than what she asked, her father never recovered. The day of her father's death, she cried until she passed out. When he visited Jian out of concern, it ignited the fire between them. They couldn't control their emotions. After that cold winter's night mixed with condolences and passion, Jian disappeared. And like that, he returned to his life, filled with peace and quiet. His only happiness was watching his son grow up. Until his son has lymphoblastic leukemia. It requires hematopoietic stem cell transplant. There's a high survival rate with just chemo. Yurei's father overheard his wife talking to his father-in-law about asking the biological father of the son to help with the bone marrow transplant. That's the least the biological could do for his son. He realized that the son wasn't his own at all. The wife and father-in-law were unapologetic. He wanted to abandon everything, but he couldn't do that to the child in chemo. He decided to let it go and treat the boy as his son, even if they did not share a drop of blood. One day, Jian appeared with a little girl. He asked if it's their child. Jian could only sob. Despite not knowing she even existed until she was 9 years old, meeting his child for the first time was an unforgettable moment. When he took his own daughter in, he got so busy that he barely even saw her once a week, despite living in the same house. He had assumed she was adjusting well, but he found her locked in a cold room, with no shoes or socks. While rewatching the security footage all night, he felt absolutely helpless. At the psychiatric doctor's office, the doctor told him that his son has an antisocial personality disorder. A fraction of those diagnosed get diagnosed as a psychopath. In his case, it seems the son's attachment to him is both the trigger for these actions and what's preventing him from progressing. He wants to remain as the favorite forever. That was when he started to fear his son, who he raised with all his love. That was also when he decided to send Yurei abroad to hide her from Yuyun. He was told that dividing his affection and attention was the trigger, which is why he opted to get Yurei out of Yuyun's sight. Since he couldn't always be with her. It was a huge relief for him when Yurei got married to Muon. Even Yuyun couldn't do whatever he pleases to someone like Muon. The watch was meant to be a safety mechanism. He had Yuyun promise that he would never intervene with Yurei's life again. But seeing as how Muon got the watch now, he is guessing that Yuyun didn't keep his promise. Muon got up, but before he left, he told Yurei's father that the repercussions are going to be dire. He might lose everything. Yurei's father told Muon that he had nothing to lose, so please, protect Yurei from getting hurt. He does not want Song Bakdong to continue to ruin her life. Yurei was seen standing outside, waiting for Muon while the snowflakes fell down. They hugged each other. Muon took off his suit jacket and put it on Yurei. She asked how her father is. Muon said he lost some weight, but he looked like he was doing fine. He told Yurei that her father loved her in his own way. Yurei was disappointed. In the end, her father chose Yuyun. Her father didn't pick her, the child of a mistress. Feeling sorry for Yurei, he told her that Yuyun isn't her father's biological child. What? What does that mean? Yurei asked in shock. Muon is not sure of the details, but everyone in the family knows that Yuyun and her father aren't biologically related, even Yuyun knows too. As they drove back, Muon explained the reason behind Yuyun's actions. Her father knew that Yuyun was dangerous, and that his behavior would only provoke Yuyun. Yurei was reminded of her father's crying face as he hugged her during their first meeting. His seldom gently gazes that looked like he wanted to say something, and the present he kept safe inside a cabinet. She kept thinking back to when he told her to be free. The broken pieces are coming together now. One morning, the news anchor reported a breaking news: Yusung Corp's executive VP Yuyun Lee was arrested for charges of murder and manslaughter. Duyun was interviewed regarding the case. In front of all the cameras on TVs, he stated, "I had been trapped in a nightmare for a long time. I wondered if my father made these decisions because he couldn't trust me. It was a nightmare full of questions I couldn't ask and with no one to talk to. And it finally feels like that nightmare is coming to an end." Muon turned off the TV as he spoke on the phone asking about the situation. The other person stated that because Yuyun caused so much trouble before, the spotlight is centered on Yuyun Lee. He will make sure to keep the media in control, so Sungwon Group isn't mentioned. The person then asked if Muon's wife was okay. Muon replied that she's trying not to show it, but she's not doing well. So please make sure that not a single thing about her gets leaked. Muon looked at his watch and wondered if Yurei was still with Junhee. Just then his phone rang. He asked if she is still with Junhee. Yurei said she just parted ways with Junhee, but she has someone she had to meet real quick. She'll be back soon. Is something wrong? Muon stated there is nothing, it's just he wanted to see her. She said she will call him when she is on her way home. The older lady that sat across from her asked if that was Muon. She heard from Yuyun that Yurei was seeing Muon again. Things are bad on their side right now. She begged Yurei to ask Muon if he can help with Yuyun's case. Yuyun's case? Yurei questioned. The elder lady stated, "He's your one and only brother," which irked Yurei. She unconsciously squeezed her coffee cup, thinking back. Not once has the elder lady across from her ever acknowledged Yurei as a part of their family, yet now she said he's her only brother. Yurei asked the older lady, how can she even ask Yurei for such a thing? The lady clearly knew how she was treated in that house, what Yuyun did to her, and why she left the house after getting a divorce. The older lady knows that Yurei has a lot of resentment towards them, but thinks about it from their perspective. Yurei's presence wasn't one they could easily welcome. And it was worse for Yuyun, who loved his dad more than anything in the world. But didn't they still do plenty for Yurei? They got her into a good school and found her a good husband. She even overlooked that her father was taking care of her sick mother behind their back. Yet, Yurei was going to remain fixated on what's happened in the past. The older lady apologized if she hurted Yurei's feelings then. Yurei looked at the older woman. She used to find her so scary and difficult. Why was she put through so much agony by this fragile woman? Yurei accepted her apology. The older woman stood and asked if she really meant it. Yurei said yes, as the older lady said, they're things of the past. If she needed Yurei's forgiveness, that is. However, the person Yuyun should be begging for forgiveness right now isn't her, but Duyun. And if he committed a crime, he should be punished. You. The woman was about to scold. But Yurei told the older lady not to contact Yurei ever again. Before she took off, Yurei stated she knew that her father and Yuyun doesn't share a single drop of blood. She is keeping quiet because she doesn't want to cause problems. But if the older lady keeps coming at her like this, Yurei doesn't know what she might do. More so than her, Manwha will be the one that won't remain quiet. A week has passed by since Yuyun's arrest. Yurei's life remains as peaceful as ever. It was probably thanks to Manwha working behind the scenes. As she was getting ready to go out, Manwha asked if she was free today. He wanted to go on a date. A date? She questioned. Manwha reminded her that they are currently dating. Doesn't she think she hasn't been paying enough attention to him lately? Manwha pouted as Yurei chuckled. Okay, let's go on a date. What does he want to do with their date? He stated they go to the L Company launch party together. It's the L Company's first male brand, so he's quite excited for it. He is sure she will like it too. Yurei agreed that might be the case, but they're dating in secret right now. A party with lots of people might be a bit. Manwha leaned in closer and said, it's a big party with lots of industry professionals, so no one will even know that they came together. Yurei pondered and agreed to see him later. Satisfied with the answer, Manwha pecked Yurei on the cheek and wished her a safe trip to work. And like that, only a week remained of the 3 months contract. After the power trip scandal, Tupits and Hanjiang will saw a sharp decline in sales. And the sales of Glow Spa and other mid-sized brands increased in sales. At this rate, on top of the department store deal, they might be able to open a second store. Jianwu asked Yurei if she will continue working in the store once the lease contract is confirmed. Yurei explained that once the deal is confirmed, he will become the manager. In Korea, it seems like they will be focusing on their online store more than physical retailers. And because she is not familiar with online business operations, headquarters is currently looking for someone better suited for the job. Jianwu asked disappointedly, then what will Yurei do? Yurei stated that she will have to return to the US headquarters first before joining the China team. It finally hit Yurei that everything was coming to an end and returning to the way things were. At first, she thought she would feel refreshed. She had thought about the end of the contract, but she hadn't thought about the end of the relationship. At the launch party, Yurei looked around when someone called for her. It was Suji, Manwha's cousin. Suji was wondering why Manwha's name was on the guest invite list. He isn't the type of person who would attend parties like this for a reason. She leaned in closer to Yurei and asked if it's a date. Yurei blushed and told her yes. Suji stated that she had been here before and the rooftop is amazing, and then winked at Yurei. Not a lot of people go there in this weather, so it's a perfect place for a secret date. The chatter got louder, interrupting Suji and Yurei's conversation. They glanced ahead of them and saw Hyununk waving to the fans and reporters as they gathered around him. Yurei noticed Suji blushed as she gazed at Hyununk. Yurei sensed that there was something going on between the two of them. Suji then stiffly excused herself that she does not want to get in the way of Yurei and Manwha, while Yurei thought to herself, she thinks she is the one that's getting in their way. Watching Suji and Hyununk smiling at each other, Yurei finally understood what Suji once told her. Haeun UK was the workaholic in his 30s that normally wears expensive brands. And Junhee also looked quite happy lately. Yurei walked to the snack table and grabbed herself a drink when a man came to talk to Yurei. He saw her with Suji, and is she perhaps also an actress too? Yurei explained that she is a brand manager. She got acquainted with Suji during a product placement for her TV show. The man chatted with Yurei regarding the product placement, the TV drama it was for. He handed his business card to Yurei and asked her to contact him if she is planning a launch party or a show. Before he got a chance to hand in the business card to Yurei, Muon grabbed the card. The man asked who he was. The name is Muon Choi. Muon stated haughtily. The man thought how confident he must be to say the name only. Though the name does sound familiar. Muon stated, Party planner Hyensu Zhou, I have something I have to discuss with this lady for a bit. Party planner boy was dumbfounded when the name sank in. Isn't he Muon Choi of the Sungwon department store? Yurei explained it's because her brand has a contract with Sungwon department store. Party planner boy didn't fully believe it because why would a contractor, with the CEO? Muon asked why would she let a guy like that hit on her already? She asked why is he getting mad at someone who was hard at work? Muon scowled unhappily, he didn't care if it's for work or business. Don't smile at other guys. Yurei replied, then should she just be frowning at parties? He readily agreed, yeah, that's actually better. Their lovely quarrel was interrupted when the MC announced the start of the event. Muon whispered to her that he will be on the second floor. She can enjoy things down here. She questioned, all by herself? He answered that if he is present, she won't get to do anything because she will be conscious of him. She asked if he came here today for her then? He replied she's been pretty down lately. According to Wu Jiang, sometimes one needs to have some rowdy fun for a change of pace. Yurei thought how this man is always able to make her blush. She thanked him for his kind consideration of her well-being. Muon stated she cannot talk to men she does not know. He is going to be watching her from up there. Yurei couldn't even scold him for that. She enjoyed the fashion show as she sipped on the champagne. But at one point, she noticed Muon was no longer at the spot he was at. She walked up to the stairs and overheard two women gossiping about Muon. One lady stated she only ever heard of him. This is the first time seeing him in person. He's really, really handsome. He's still single, right? The other lady stated things went sour with the daughter of Han Jiang Will Company. They're not in a good place right now. Should I make a move on him? Asked the other lady. You will have to take a number. There's a whole truckload of girls like you ready to make a move. The two ladies giggled as they talked. Yurei could hear the whole conversation. Yurei sulked as she dialed Muon's number. And he's not picking up. He told her she cannot talk to other guys, but he has a truckload of girls line up. And then he just disappeared. Is this why he told her to stay downstairs? Suddenly the phone clicked and Muon walked from behind her. Yurei said through the phone as she made eye contact with Muon. She was told that in order to make a move on him tonight, she would need to take a number. What's her place in his queue? Muon gazed at Yurei, thinking how adorable she was before telling her that she does not have to take a number. She will always get to skip the line. She told he has to promise no take-backsies before stumbling a little. He stabilized her and asked how many drinks she had. 6. She chuckled and said she is not drunk and she can handle alcohol better than him. She was wobbling, but she still denied she's drunk. He asked if she is bragging that she's a better drinker than him. Yep. Yurei answered drunkenly. He pinched her cheek and told her she's banned from drinking. After that, Muon took Yurei up to the rooftop. Haiwan told him about the rooftop. Yurei said she told Yurei about the rooftop as well. Under the night skies, the city's lights reflected like stars. The couple looked out into the distance as they enjoyed the night breeze. Muon asked if she enjoyed the show. Yurei stated it was a lot of fun. Muon said he wanted them to have a lot of fun in the future as well. Yurei said he does not have to go out of his way to do something special. There have been plenty of times where she was happy just because she was with him. Far happier than she could have ever imagined in the past. Yurei clasped her arms across Muon's neck and pulled him down closer to her. Her expressions reflected in his eyes. Gazing into his eyes, she said, I love you. In that moment, there was only one thing she wished for, that this moment would last forever. They kissed under the dazzling night cities. And found themselves back at home, shoes scattered at the entrance, their lips didn't separate from each other as they started taking off their clothes. They kissed from the door to the living room and soon Yurei was on the bed. Muon's shirt was already undone while Yurei was still pretty much fully clothed. Even though this wasn't their first time, somehow, he felt like his heart was going to burst from excitement. Muon jumped on top of Yurei and continued kissing her as he took off her shirt. He sucked her neck like he wanted to devour her completely. The room was quickly heated up, and passionate lovemaking filled the room. They both were crazily drowning in lovemaking, feeling hot, ecstatic as if it was their first time. Party planner boy felt like he hit the jackpot, holding onto his phone with pictures of Muon and Yuri talking, although he regretted not getting the picture of them kissing. But with that picture alone, it was enough for front cover material. He then proceeded to make a phone call to a reporter to make a deal with the photo he captured. Seemed like the lovemaking continued even until the next morning. Yurei, all flushed as sweat dripped down her chin, told Muon they had to stop. She has to go to work soon. Muon told her not to go. They should just spend all day together. He then climbed on top of her in an attempt to tease her for another round. Yurei rejected and reasoned she has to check the new spring season line today. So please move off her already. Doesn't he know what moderation means? Muon paused and told her there is no way he can be moderate. Did she forget how many years it's been? Yurei groaned and thought they had done it so many times already. While Muon continued with his physical action. Finally, Yurei screamed and buried her face into the pillow. Muon, who sat next to her, looked all refreshed and asked if she was okay. Muon gently massaged her back and asked what's going to happen from now on. Not understanding, she asked, what does he mean by that? He is talking about the lease contract. She told him she has to return to the U.S. headquarters. He asked if she is going to continue working at the store after that. She hesitantly stated she is probably going back to the China team. It's not a sure thing yet, but that was the original plan. He asked if that meant it could change. Nervous Yurei stated seriously she is not sure, it's not something she can decide. Their conversation was interrupted when Muon's phone buzzed. He picked up President Yu's call. President Yu broke down the news that came out this morning. There were photos. Every news channel now has their own spin story to Muon's scandal, and they were interested in who the lucky Cinderella that has captured the heart of the CEO is.